Hello, welcome back to my huge channel, everybody. Today we have a topic I love extremely, and I decided by myself to talk about this topic because I think it's relevant, I think it's underestimated, and I need to scream it out loud so everybody is aware. And you know it from the title already, what we're talking about, obviously. We have reached a point in fashion where nothing really surprises us anymore. The greatest inspirational fashion is still mainly the past, and we just keep repeating everything usually. Is there any kind of newness that you have recognized on the runways, as beautiful as everything is? What is the newness? There's not so much newness actually, it's more like a reinterpretation of the past. And when it comes to accessories, we probably have seen it all. And I'm not talking about Van Cleef and Cartier here, but I mean like really accessories like gloves, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, ties. I think ties are a bit more the very distinct and creative ones, where you can also bring a bit your personality because you can have patterns and different fabrics, and you can torture them and destroy them, or you can wear them in a very elegant way, and you can even wear them as dresses if we look at the Saint Laurent collection that we just saw now, fall 24. But all these accessories have one thing in common: they're not so strong in showcasing your personality as hats are. A hat is probably leaving the most impressive impression that you can leave in a room of people when you wear it. And of course you can have minimal and more outrageous jewelry as well, but hat has a silhouette, and it is a silhouette on adding to your body. It's on top of your body. It's not on your body like jewelry is, like gloves are or tights are. It is a new silhouette added to your body, and that's why it has the biggest effect. And today I want to talk with you about 3 major hat forms that are also relevant today, I would say, that are very modern today, even though they're very historical. That's why we also need a slightly tiny bit of a cultural background, so I will have my slight context integration, but afterwards we will speak about head shapes and headwear that is relevant and how you can improve your personal style in this context as well. Before I start to get into this topic, I need to speak about something very personal with you. I think I need to update you on some changes in my life that happened recently. I've been a pretty almost streamlined corporate person for the last years after I finished my economic studies. I was always trying to find a way to get into fashion while also questioning myself how to get into fashion. And probably one reason why I wanted to start this channel on a random day in June in 2020, I think, so it's been almost 3.5 years, is desperation and seeking for a community of people that enjoys fashion as much as I do, because I didn't have anybody that I could share my interest with. And this channel was not built on educating people or teaching people anything. It's built on building a community with a common interest in analyzing fashion and trying to be beneficial to people as well, in maybe improving one's personal style or one's confidence, because I was struggling with that in my 20s, definitely. So I moved here to Paris, as you know, for my job. So I still had a very stressful corporate job, and this meant all these 3.5 years that I was working full-time. And when I say full-time, it means fully full-time. And I was like filming at 11 p.m. on Friday evenings. When I got home, I was editing Saturdays the whole day to be able to publish something on a Sunday. And I tried to be as frequent as possible. I think I have almost 100 videos, and all these 100 videos have been produced under an immense form of stress, so much that I didn't upload anything for 6 months because I could not manage. I couldn't handle it anymore. It was impossible to balance it. And it was not because I had like a toxic working environment or not. My colleagues, everything was amazing. I really loved the job also, but I was not able to follow my passion or this hobby I started 3.5 years ago at all. It was impossible, so I quit doing it. When I figured I did not upload anything for 6 months, and I received, some of you guys even recognized I was off a bit, I figured it cannot work like this anymore. So I took the decision and decided to quit the job. And believe me, it's one of the hardest decisions in your life if you have an amazing work environment, if you have an interesting job actually, and you need to say no to this and to a lot of security, and yeah, just say no to everything and risk everything you have. I know this is my own choice. Nobody forced me to take this risk. But I took it because I believed in it. Yeah, before I make this too long, because we actually have a topic here which is about hats. Yeah, I just wanted to explain to you is that I did that 7 months ago, And it's been 7 months. I'm doing this very frequently. And I was also testing myself. That's why I didn't open up to you guys before. I was testing if I will improve, because maybe for years I just had the excuse of being too busy, but my content will not improve actually if I have more time, you know? So I didn't have any excuse anymore since winter last year, and I did see an improvement. I did see that people liked it more, and that I had a better camera and better gear and more time to edit, more than a day at least, which clearly improved it from my perspective. And if you do think so as well, and you know where this is going to lead, I will have a Patreon from now on where I can also upload more videos per month and more personal things as well that I think is maybe not something I would like to share with people publicly on YouTube when it comes to my personal aesthetic, my personal wardrobe, interior, all these topics. Other personal topics I have with fashion designers that are maybe too opinionated that I don't want to share here. All these things I can share on Patreon, and I will do from now on. And if you do think this content was in any sort beneficial to you, or it makes you happy because it's funny also while being about fashion, I will link the link down below. So if you think this is valuable content for you, support me please. Back to the topic of hats. For a very long time, we actually only had hats that were serving the purpose of keeping us, protecting us from the heat or rain. So it was something pretty functional. As you know, the moment we create something functional in this world, it can also turn into something elevated and into something that differentiates you from others. Nowadays, a lot of headwear, when you think of headwear, I really want you to ask yourself, what do you think of headwear right now? Is there anything on your mind? And I'm not thinking about the caps with like funny slogans on them. And I know we all kind of smize a bit when we see them. It's always like, it's like sending someone a meme that is just a bit funny but not fully. These cute little phrases on these pastel colored caps is not what we're talking about today. We will not talk about caps. When I say hats, I mean hats, guys. Like, we're going full force today. We're talking about serious fashion pieces today. So let's start with a little trip down the memory lane, because as usual, that's where we find all the answers. And if I say we go back, we can go like back, which is like 30,000 years ago. I'm sure you all know this little statue called Venus von Willendorf. It's called von Willendorf because it was found in Austria, and it's one of the earliest human depictions in form of a little statue. And it's usually, it's called Venus because it stands for femininity and all these things. But there's also something on the head. So this could of course be a depiction of hair maybe. But scientists also assume that this could be like a woven head that is like very close on the head. And as I said, this all could be just coincidence. But another Venus statue called Venus of Brassempuis, found in France, which is like 25,000 years old. It really looks more like a headdress here. And even the Ötzi was found wearing a hat made of deer fur. It's like 3000 BC old. And we can see that hats always, despite the functional attributes, also served some sort of protection from the sun and cold, but also to visibly express distinguishing features about oneself. So if you think of what we get inspired by concerning hat design nowadays, we usually think of the 19th and 20th century. So not stuff you would probably wear in the morning when you get dressed for your job and be like, okay, I need a cute accessory. I will look like a musketeer or Napoleon Bonaparte or something. So it's usually something that was already worn on the streets by normal people in the 19th and 20th century. So to bring it all together and to speak about having spoken about all hats that I might not appreciate during the rest of this video, there are top hats, there were opera hats that were foldable, that you can put under your theater seat. By the way, a great idea for people who go to concerts today. Nobody's thinking about the people behind them anymore. I would really appreciate foldable hats nowadays, not only in the 20th century. You know, people stand in front of you like on a concert and they're already like, I'm 165, guys. I'm 165. I cannot handle. You're already 2 meters and you decide to wear a cap that goes like upwards, which also looks terrible, by the way. That's terrible. I don't want this. I don't want to support this. I want foldable hats for people that go to concerts. These people turned me into a person that has a seat at a concert. I have a seat now. I'm not that old, guys. I could do it, like I can stand. I can physically stand 2 hours. After 2 hours it gets critical, but Yeah, so other hat forms, very quickly to finish, is the derby or the bowler that you also might know from Charlie Chaplin. The bow tie in the 1920s that was made out of straw and was like the first hat that looked a bit cooler because it was a bit more leisure, I feel. I mean, the fabric is way lighter than this harsh felt wool. There's a Homburg worn by Al Pacino in The Godfather. And the fedora, it's my favorite of the hats. It was actually relevant in the 30s, but it was also relevant like 15 years ago on your local Pinterest account. It was probably worn by your favorite pumpkin spice latte person, the fedora hat with skinny jeans and oversized knitwear, and then Jeffrey Campbell Lita boots. That's a fedora hat for me. That's the modern interpretation. So let's just say we arrived in today. The timeline now says today, and we want to speak about relevant head shapes today and why they are important, why you should not neglect them, why you probably neglected them for the wrong reasons. We will come to this now. And you know what? To justify my argumentation of the relevance of hats, I'm going to spam you with some runway pics to prove you that some designers think certain shapes are relevant and why I think as well that they're relevant and you should wear them. We're gonna start with the one that is probably I wouldn't say the most frequent, because overall the hats trend is still very minimal. Like, we saw it a lot on the runways. We don't see it on the streets. We're not anti anything here, but we're definitely anti mainstream, because mainstream usually means that everything we love is being washed out, used in the wrong context that we cannot identify with anymore. And that's why we don't want to encourage anybody or also do things that are very mainstream. And as I always say, it's not the mainstream itself that is a problem. You know what? I'm absolutely okay with things turning into a trend and everybody is connecting to it. It's also the reason how subcultures happen. It's also a community thing. And that's why I think it's very important that when we, once in 100 years, like something, that it's not being abused immediately by media and in the wrong context. And for now, hats are very relevant, influential, but not mainstream yet. So the perfect time, if you're still trying to figure out your personal style and everything, to add this one thing into your wardrobe. And I want to start with a more streamlined, sophisticated version that is probably around for a bit longer time now. And I like to call it the CLERIC, because that's how you will definitely look like. You will look like you applied for a job at church or you come from a different century, but actually not. It's just a very interesting silhouette that adds a beautiful, streamlined and strong silhouette to your wardrobe. So the main ambassadors of this trend is definitely the Row and Alaya. The Row does it already since 2020, I think it's on the runway, always on 1 or 2 models only, but we see it since 2020, which is pretty early for this trend. Alaya now as well. Alaya just started after the Row. And I would say Totem is also one of the brands, even though I think Totem is also very influenced by the Row. I feel like it's the more approachable, not so Scandi brand anymore, even though it's a Scandinavian brand, but still very strongly influenced by the Row, the brand. So if we look at the runways, we have extreme sharpness surrounding our hats in such a strong silhouette that it almost looks like someone took a Sharpie and drew something on our heads. This very reserved looks, and this, minimalism isn't new, but it's very much a 90s minimalism that the Row brings back. It's not the Phoebe Philo minimalism we knew from Celine, which was still very expressionate, it was still very strong in movements and shapes, and it was still very atypical. The Row is very typical. The Row is very basic in terms of silhouettes usually. You have something twirled sometimes, there's one cropped sweater that is slightly twirled, but it's very much the pant is a pant. The shirt is a shirt and the blazer is a blazer, and it's just usually a lot of handmade stuff as well. It's very rich in construction. Without getting too deep here on the terms of the Row, but if you do identify with the brand the Row, this is a perfect silhouette to improve a bit your personal style and make it a bit more personal even. To have something on your head slightly tilted as well. To me personally, since a hat is always something a bit dressy and it always has something theatrical to it. This is true, and that's also why a lot of people struggle to wear a hat. But if you throw all this fear away and I'm looking cringe, and when I wait for the metro people will be like, what are you wearing? It can, if you have a long coat, if you wear a tiny kitten heel or loafers or whatever, and you have this hat on your head, it looks beautiful and it improves your personal style. It expresses your personal style more strongly. It's just a amazing shape that is not overworn, it's not overused and misinterpreted yet, and you have like the one of a kind chance to use it. So I would definitely recommend you, before it gets too warm, to get you one. You can even wear it like at summer nights or something with a blazer. I think it's truly beautiful. So that's a shape I would definitely recommend. I will speak of a different headpiece shape now, where I think it is going into the same direction and it can help you to find good pieces as well, because I just found this one on Yokes for a really, really low price, to be honest. And I always would recommend you to have an eye on Yokes and like on very untypical brands that you're actually not searching for. So I go by category, and sometimes it happens that it's a brand that I would never in my lifetime search for, like here. And then you just have something amazing that comes out. So this is actually the form of, first of all, maybe some context. I was searching for like a fez-like shape. You know, the fez that you know from the Ottomans. And it's not because I'm Turkish or anything, but I do feel some warmth towards this kind of aesthetic, but it should have not been Bordeaux, definitely. So I was looking like for a modern interpretation of a fez. And then I figured, it is actually but the Garrison cap shape. The Garrison cap shape is actually a military inspired, and not military inspired, it is a military cap. So it comes from the 1920s, and it's a shape that is like this. So it is like, if you see it here, this is a velvet one. I mean, it's not silk, but it's oh, it's silk. What the hell? Okay. Yep. So this is a Giorgio Armani. You need to be aware it's Giorgio Armani and not Emporio Armani or Armani, but that's a hat I found on Yokes. And it has, if you see here, you have here the chance to like, well, I don't know, it's very black. You have here the chance to like fold it. And if you wear it, you're supposed to wear it like this, diagonal, like this. And then it has a tiny flick here. If you saw my vlog video, you saw me running around with this as well. I think it's super funny. I don't think it makes me look crazy. I think it makes me look a bit more interesting even. So because I have some fibers on my head, I have some textile on my head. And it's a shape that we kind of know. I love the Garrison cap shape because it gives you like the form of a saluting soldier without referencing too much the idea of war. So the thing with referencing pieces that are coming from military, it's always kind of critical how you do it. But honestly, who is not wearing cargo pants? Who is not wearing bomber jackets? I think right now we are in a moment of fashion where we kind of decontextualized everything that is like aggressively military inspired, because we reused it so much in fashion in the last 50 years that all connotation to war has kind of ended. But still we need to be kind of aware of what the background of pieces is. So I would not style this in a like military inspired way, for example. I mean, also this is of course a very elegant version. It is velvet, it has like little beds here as well. Yeah, but I think it's a beautiful piece. I think it has kind of the same effect than the raw ones have, and this was a tiny bit of the price. So it was very, very well priced. And you know what? It might look silly to some people and maybe even to you, but I think it's just a beautiful accessory that we kind of forgot about. So keep this in your mind. Coming to hat style number 2. I think the main driver of this fashion trend, of that certain hat aesthetic, is definitely the inevitable talent of John Galliano. From the current collections to his very first show, this guy has been designing hats all the time. It was in our face all the time. And you know what? It took him 30 years to convince us that hats are relevant. So if you're aware of John Galliano at Dior, at Givenchy, at his own eponymous label, of his beautiful paparazzi shots, oh my god, there's so many paparazzi shots of John Galliano due to his street style. You might be aware that he's truly interested in the 19th and 20th century shapes throughout his collections, and his personal preferences are also very interesting. From Matadors in Dior 2007, the sailor hats at Dior Spring 2011, or the surprisingly well-fitting pirate hats he had at his own eponymous brand in 2009. This man is always styling with hats. And I think we're all aligned. He doesn't have to convince us anymore. I think everybody is aligned that this man is a genius. This guy has been using hats all the time, so probably he's aware of something we were not. and it's the usage of hats. So now we finally have, due to him, the chance to really appreciate hats and use them and style them into our personal wardrobe. But we can get inspired by all his collections. I would really recommend to you to look at all Dior shows. I know it's very extreme in the haute couture shows where he has the most beautiful hats, but I would definitely recommend you to go through all John Galliano Eponymous brand and also his Dior times, because there he created the most beautiful hats actually. He shows us how we can reinvent ourselves every time, and how we can also not only reinvent but also find ourselves in one of these personalities that he pictures. The latest Fall 23 collection was definitely proving to me personally that I was finally daring to go beautifully absurd as the brand is, and I think that's what kind of describes the flamboyant style of Galliano the most. And it's not the opulent Edwardian hats from the haute couture show that I'm talking about. I mean more like the 19th century inspired riding hats that he has. And here we have a beautiful version. I got this used somewhere. There's also some makeup stains in there, but that was the reason how I could actually get hands on this hat. It's a beautiful piece, and yes, it is true that if you think I have a similar stylistic choice when it comes to my hats, it's true. I would say like this is also some sort of military, aka Middle Eastern flying carpet inspired. This is definitely, well, this is still a very strong 19th century reference. So when I wear this, it's hilarious. You know, it's just pretty much hilarious. Imagine me sitting with my coat in the metro, which I do because that's my form of transportation. And I wear this. This is so funny. Here I think this resembles like real feathers, of course, but it's not. And I have a problem with fitting hats because my hat is too small. Yeah, that's a problem. I know people have problems also with too big hats. Both is problematic. I don't know what's worse. But I got this one. As you might have recognized, I like a slightly tilted shape. I don't know why, but I just figured it's a bit like this Justin Timberlake look of the 2000s that I don't want to be compared to. But I do think it fits perfectly to my style. That is, I like to keep my clothes simple. I like to keep my clothes a good wool pant. You know, I'm the wool pant ambassador. I like my shirts slightly twisted and twirled like here, but that's it. You know, I don't want my clothes usually to scream through silhouette. I like to keep my clothes silhouettes very close to my body and excite slightly in color and pattern maybe. But usually I'm very fabric focused and very natural color driven, navies, blacks, and some earth tones, not too many. And I'm very happy that I can improve my personal style with something I can put on my head because I don't have to change anything else. I'm not a jewelry person. I just think it's so practical to be able to express my personal style in a level I could never do with like a choker full of Swarovski stones or whatever. Like, I still think it's the most humble and down-to-earth way to show your stylistic preference. I think jewelry is something I cannot resonate with. I do not want any Cartier bracelets. I don't want a lot of jewelry because it doesn't stand for what I stand for. I don't really believe in having like your whole fonts on your arms and necks. Like that doesn't make sense to me. And to me, like silhouette and form and shape is way more important. And I think I can create this with a hat way more. But this is a great shape if you want to be a bit like more theatrical. You know, this is a bit more playful. This is a bit more a play of centuries where you showcase it, and a bit more strong, but it's also protective in some form. So it does really have some protective shape. I was thinking of wearing this a few days ago when it was raining. I never wore it yet, so I'm an amazing ambassador. And as I said, you can be a bit theatrical and showcase it in an easier way and improve your personal style. It doesn't have to be this shape. I know this is weird for a lot of people and it might be a bit too old school, but I just mean that Galliano really bring this shape back also with his Fall 23 collection. It was beautiful and I just loved how it breaks, especially with the feminine shape that we have. So I think on the runway they were wearing it like with transparent skirts and like shirts and this on top. I love how this is a riding hat. So this is something you were wearing if you were riding or hunting or whatever. So it's something like very contradictional to the feminine beauty form. You can wear it with something very feminine, so it's a nice contrast, and you can bring some movement into your look that you cannot create with a jacket because it's on your head. Coming to the last shape I will force you to wear. And I want everybody to wear this because it also a bit resonates with the topic that I had in a video a few weeks ago, that everything beautiful kind of needs to be ugly. And we need to embrace that. And we need to leave aside that we want to look beautiful all the time and that we need to have face contoured and shaped or whatever. Like, get rid of all these beautiful things and just think of form and silhouette and emotions. One of my favorite pieces as well in forms of headgear, and you might have seen me, I think, on my Instagram if you follow me there, it's hats that look like swim caps. And if you're aware of fashion, you know exactly who's the ambassador of creating stuff that looks like swim caps. You know what I mean. But there's also a bit more about it. You know, so swimming became popular as a public sport kind of in the 1830s. And you might also know that there are very famous water wave hairstyles. And that was super popular in the 1920s, for example. And if you've ever been to a hairdresser and asked for a special occasion hairstyle and mentioned this term, you might have wanted to be super careful with this hairstyle as well, because it's like it's super fragile. I always wanted to have it. I tried it several times because I was like, I have a short haircut now, I can do it. I can look like a Great Gatsby girl. I could not. It did not work. Like, I just had like one wave. It's super hard to have this special wave. And it's a beautiful aesthetical form to form your hair, actually. I mean, I think you can do it also, of course, on longer hair, but it's usually on your scalp that you have it like right here. So it's a trend from the 1920s, actually. It was so much of a trend that there were even swimming caps that had like printed on the plastic this hair shape. So, I mean, honestly, this is hilarious. This is funny. I love like this beautiful absurdity of hats. It's amazing. So the 1920s kind of end, and then there is like a horrible time of war, and then the 1960s start. In the 1960s, even though there's like still the Cold War and stuff going on, it's also a huge time for fashion. And if you think of Pierre Cardin, if you think of André Courrèges, if you think of Paco Rabanne, you might know which aesthetic I'm talking about. I mean like this super futuristic space age idea. But back then in the 60s, it was very futuristic, driven by the moon landing, driven by technological development that didn't exist before, driven by the fear that the world will end and everything will turn into robots and they will rule us. These three designers are very emblematic of the space age idea. And with the space age idea, and there are a lot of images and references as well, how these designers use this swim cap-like look as well. I would say it's maybe not mainly inspired by swimming, but more like of a robotic look. More like of a astronaut helmet-like look, but it's like very clean and neat on the head. That's kind of the last time where we saw the swim cap be very popular. And then it hit us again, of course, by the queen, the lady, the best female person on this planet. It's Miuccia Prada. So Miuccia Prada, I think it was the fall 2011 collection where she showed with these swim caps. And the thing with Miuccia Prada and her brand Prada overall is actually the idea I've been speaking about before, what you can manage to create with hats. This urge to destroy the femininity you created. So she has these very feminine looks usually, color choices, silhouettes, skirts, jackets. So it's not very masculine, I would say. But then she takes a tiny bit of something and wants to destroy that. She wants to blur that. She wants to make it less feminine, less appealing, more ugly. Here she managed that beautifully with the collection, with using like nude colored swimmer caps. She even had it in a more iconic way, I would say, or in a way that you also might remember it in the Miu Miu collection. It's a Miu Miu 2017 collection, and I remember very well the ads that were everywhere. And I think it shows so much how she believes in her ideas. She literally had like 5 models on this huge ad, and they're wearing this very literal form of swim caps. Like it was swim caps. It was not like Prada 2011. It was just the swim cap. And lastly, we saw it in the last shown fall 2024 men's collection. What I loved actually to see it on men's, especially when they are like fully packed in very professional looking suits, going through a place that looks like an office place. She just bring it back for men's. And I'm really curious how much this will impact men's brands. I know there are brands that already do that also. It's not only Prada. There's also Gisenda doing it for years. There's Melita Baumeister actually, who has a lot of interesting headwear as well. And overall, you can always see it in like couture shows, for example. Dior Couture, Chanel Couture, Valentino Couture 2019 especially. And I think this also shows that the swim cap, can you see it's a swim cap, but it's usually being referenced for old couture shows. So it does have an impact. It does change. Of course, it's full of embellishments usually on the couture shows, but you can do it in your day-to-day life because it kind of streamlines your look. You have no hair suddenly. You need to be careful of how you wear it. So I got this one, the one that I wore also on my Instagram picture. I can show you. It looks very weird and some people were scared of me. This is a Max Mara one. I got, I think, for 30 euros or something. But I love that it's like super stretchy and it fits perfectly on your head. So you can wear it like this. You should keep some hair out because I figured if you don't do that, you look a bit weird. So of course this is not a perfect look, but I can look a bit like a pilot or a... I know this is so ridiculous to many of you right now. I know how many people will take a screenshot and be like, look how shit this looks. It does not. It looks super good, okay? It doesn't give you a good head shape though, not gonna lie. So there's this shape that you can get. It looks cool. And when I say cool, I mean, again, it's a beautiful form of having some artistic appreciation in your look, showcasing how you view fashion, how you view your body versus fashion, that you don't only see your body as a perfectionized version of the mainstream idea of beauty, but that you can use your body in a daring way. And when I say daring, I mean stuff like this, you know? I don't mean like running around in a miniskirt. This is daring because it makes you look ugly, perceived by many people ugly, but this is something daring. So we talked about the very classical clerical shape of the row. We talked about the very romantic riding hat by Margiela, and we talked about the swim cap by Prada. I think this is enough head knowledge for the day. I hope that it kind of helps you to figure out what you can dare to wear. And I want everybody to dare a bit more. We all need to learn that we can only improve our personal style once we dare to make a step into the direction of not following the norm. Because as long as you follow the norm, you don't follow your own rules. You follow the rules that already exist and you don't have your own path. So that's my statement of the day. So after this tiny statement, I will ask you to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment. What is your favorite head shape that you have? And don't say round in the comments. And from now on, I will add subscribe to the Patreon if you feel delighted by this. And don't forget the headquarters Discord. Join the Discord server. We are all together there and having some plans to change the world, to revolutionize. So the Discord server is amazing if you feel like you need like-minded people that care about fashion, deeply about fashion, but also are not too bored to share their daily looks, and then we discuss your daily look. Join the Discord.